Bringing you news and a brief reaction here on this Sunday evening following the announcement from Beau Pribula and his agency that he would be committing to the Missouri Tigers. We'll talk about it in just 1 second. We do want to thank Under the Kitchen first and foremost because he's sponsoring our show. That's Randy Engel down at Under the Kitchen in Mitchellville. He does Hawkeye prints, artwork, part of the NIL initiative. Check it all out, underthekitchen.square.site, or you can visit his Facebook page. Search Under the Kitchen or hit the link in the description of this video. So as I mentioned at the outset, Beau Pribula, the Penn State backup who had entered the transfer portal prior to Penn State's college football playoff debut against SMU this week, had visited Central Florida. He'd visited Ole Miss, had a scheduled visit to Indiana, also visited Iowa. Now, he canceled that Indiana visit, but he also took a trip down to see Drinkwitz and that Missouri Tiger program in Columbia. Of course, a program Iowa will be matched up against down at the Music City Bowl. And it's a Missouri program who had missed on some quarterbacks early during this transfer portal window. But there was a rumor here about a week or two ago when Pribula initially entered the portal that Mizzou had thrown a figure out there that was quite high, although there are a lot of big numbers being thrown out there toward quarterbacks in the portal, especially top-tier quarterbacks in the portal. And by all accounts, Beau Pribula was perceived as being a top 5 in some circles, top 10, I think, consensus quarterback in this transfer portal cycle, given his ability to scramble, make plays with his feet, and a really solid arm. He'd been kind of underutilized at Penn State due to the prolonged career of Drew Aller, who will be returning in 2025. But Iowa not able to get it done as he commits to Drinkwitz and the Missouri Tigers. So what does it mean? I know there's a lot of frustrated fans out there on social media. A lot of guys that Iowa was linked to, they're off the board. You think about Connor Weigman down at Texas A&M. He's going to Houston. You think about Miller Moss down at USC. He's going to Louisville. Now you got Beau Pribula. He's going to Mizzou. A lot of programs are getting quarterbacks except Iowa, although Iowa did get Hank Brown out of Auburn, but he is certainly not the big fish that fans were hoping for, and Iowa does need to add someone else. Camden Coleman's really the only guy that I know about who's been linked to Iowa, but we had Elliot Clough of Rivals on here a couple of days ago. He's more in the recruiting sphere than I am, and he mentioned that he had a conversation here recently with Coleman, and Coleman had basically said, hey, I hadn't heard from Iowa here recently. So that's a Richmond kid who has played mostly against FCS competition. Where to go from here? The portal window remains open for about another week. Is it possible guys hop in the portal? Always. Is it possible you have some graduates hop in the portal after the bowl games? Yes. Even after the portal window closes, guys can jump in. But this is a big blow. There's no question. Iowa continues to swing and miss on some guys. Is it because of lack of funding with the NIL collective when you compare it to these other schools? Potentially. I'm sure that's a factor. We know it's a factor. We know NIL is a big factor, especially with quarterbacks. And I've been saying this here for a while now. Kirk Ferentz's future at Iowa here over the next couple of seasons, I know he's extended through, 2029. His future at Iowa is really no longer in his control. Like, obviously, in the past, he's built this program on development and control what you can control, make the makeables, and that culture is not going anywhere. But at the same time, if you can't recruit the portal effectively, specifically at skill position spots, I thoroughly believe you cannot compete moving forward. You cannot compete on the big stage moving forward. We've seen Iowa really struggle against the big dogs ever since that 2020 reduced COVID year. So, I mean, Iowa seemed to get a big fish 2 years ago with Cade McNamara. That ship sailed, did not work out. And since then, they've really struggled. They got Jacob Gill, who was kind of under the radar from Northwestern. That's probably going to be their best bet at quarterback, is finding somebody that other people aren't honing in on and convincing him to come to Iowa. And at least they have Tim Lester to identify that potential diamond in the rough. But Kirk Ferentz, I think this is, it's uncomfortable for him, but this is as uncomfortable I'm sure he's been in the recruiting world. And that goes without saying, but it's no longer within his control. That's what I keep coming back to with this whole NIL stuff and with this Beau Pribula news, because it's like, man, this guy commits elsewhere. This guy commits elsewhere. Just seems like you're not consistently competing with the big fish. You're starting to be linked to some bigger fish. So maybe that's an indicator that your collective has taken significant steps forward. But Is it the collective? Is it more so style of play and lack of NFL draftees at that position? That doesn't help the case, certainly. You got a lot of things going against you. You got some things going for you as well. But then you look at Kirk Ferentz's age, the longevity question. It's just an uncomfortable era. And you talk about buying and selling players from year to year. That's why I continue to wonder how long he wants to do this. But it's skill position players specifically and quarterbacks. How can you utilize the skill set of a Tim Lester in developing guys if they're constantly hopping around? And whether you hate the new era of football or not, it is what it is. It's here to stay. You've got to be able to go get quarterbacks in the portal because not many guys are sticking it out. And rarely is Iowa ever going to get a 4 to 5 star quarterback who's ready to start their first or second year. Just doesn't happen. So by year number 3, they leave. All right, whether it's Marco Lainez or James Rezar, I mean, he left after a few months, right? They didn't like him at quarterback, moved to receiver, he's gone. So I know I'm going on a tangent, as I often do on this channel. But this is kind of my instant reaction to hearing that Beau Pribula has committed to Missouri, whether it's for $1.5 million or whatever figures are being thrown out there that maybe Iowa wasn't able to match, or if it's just a combination of NIL and what he experienced on the different visits. I can't say. I've not had a conversation with Beau Pribula, even though most people want to conclude this is why this happened and this is why this didn't happen. None of us really know unless you've had a conversation with him, his agent, his family, etc. And I don't think most people have. So that's the news. Iowa will, I'm sure they'll get somebody, right? They'll get somebody, but it's disappointing because they've swung and missed again at a very, very important, the most important position on the football field. And during a time frame, this transfer portal window that is absolutely critical for quarterback success. We'll talk to you very soon. Actually, it'll be a live show tomorrow night, Monday, December 23rd at 7:30 p.m. Central Time with myself and Coach Don Patterson. So bring your questions, bring your comments, your complaints, whatever the case may be ready to sound off during Hawkeye Hangout as we talk about recruiting, the transfer portal, and the Music City Bowl coming up on the 30th. We'll talk to you Monday night, 7:30 p.m. Central Time right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm.